DC, hi, Jim Delapine here. I want to give you some feedback on this, some video help with this, and I mean, this pulled together pretty nicely. I'm a bit surprised actually, but I think this looks pretty good. Did a good job with the layer masks, and I do think though that this is a little too thick. So I would suggest selecting that layer, hitting Control T for free transform, dragging the center point to right about here, and then scaling it in by clicking and dragging, and then holding down the Shift key to constrain and the Alt key to scale into that point. Okay, and what I want you to do is make this as the thickness of this hole, the opening for the armature, to make it realistic. All right, you can then perhaps maybe bring it out a little bit, but make sure it lines up to make it look real. Okay, and hit enter to apply the transformation, and there you go. All right, it's not as long. I mean, I don't know, maybe you could stretch it. I don't know. Forget that part. All right, so now what you want to do is, this text here does not look very good. It's like stuffed in there, so I want to show you a technique that I think will be pretty interesting for you. You have not created an adjustment layer that's a clipping mask. And this is a common mistake. Everyone thinks that the image as a clipping mask is what I want. I specifically said adjustment layer that is a clipping mask. So I'm going to give you instructions on how to do that, and also to have a saved and renamed selection as a channel. Okay, I'm going to give you exact instructions. I want you to do that. So for the text, let's take the text, and I'm going to move this. I'm going to bring it right here for now. And your name is not supposed to be on there, so let's get rid of that, and just trash that. All right, so I'm going to suggest that we do this. So let me just take the word Todd and I hit Control X to cut it. Okay, then I'm going to go to my move tool and go back to my text tool and click and paste. Why didn't it paste? Why? Because it's, oh, wait a second. There's a clipping mask that's getting in the way. Okay. Yeah, that image was a clipping mask. Okay, so we have Todd. So I'm going to make this a very bold font. So I'm going to suggest Arial Black. So it's thick and bold. And I'm going to do the same thing for Terrible Toys. Make that. So note that if I just hit ARI, Arial will come up. And then I'm going to go down to black. So that's thick. I'm also going to hit Control T, and I'm going to scale this up. I'm just going to click and drag. I'm not even going to worry about well, you know what? Here's a better idea. I'm going to take this text tool, right before toys, I'll hit Enter. All right, and then I'll select it all and click on the center option, and then drag it over. Whoops. Why isn't... Okay. Now, you've got a lot of space in between there, so we're going to make an adjustment here. So I'm going to highlight that and then hit Control T. If the text is highlighted and you hit Control T, you'll get the character panel come up. And what we want to do is change the leading, or the space in between. So this is the icon for that there. So you can actually, let's go to automatic. What the heck is going on here? Why is that not working? You know what? I'm just going to keep it simple. I'm going to cut that so it's just a separate layer. Okay, so move Terrible here, and then go to my text tool, click and paste. So I have toys. I think it's because I distorted it. So here's what we're going to do. All right, I'm going to put Todd here. Terrible. Hit Control T And wait a second here. I think it was created using a text box. That's why. All right, doesn't matter. Control T, and I'll just expand this. Oh man, you know what? I'm gonna hide that. There. I just hit it so it doesn't interfere with the selecting. Oh, that's why. Okay. Yeah, I was selecting the shadow because it's right there. Okay, so I'll do that. Hit enter. Toys. I'll scale that up. And I'll stretch it down, distort it a little bit. And watch what I'm going to do here. I'll hit enter, go to my text tool, double click, and now what I'll do is I'll increase what's called tracking, which is, why is none of this working? Huh, now it's not working. It's kind of weird. Okay, so I'm going to increase the tracking, which is the space in between the text. All right, so, and I'm going to place it somewhere here, and this I'll place here, and I'll also just expand this up to really make it dramatic. All right. Now, trust me on this. Now we're gonna do something interesting here. All right. So now with Terrible, okay, let's leave Todd as is for now. So I'm going to select. I'm going to Control click on the T in the Terrible layer, and then I'm going to Shift Control click on the T for the Toys layer. So that puts a selection around that text. I'm then going to hide the text, scroll down to the background and select the background, and then I'm going to hit Control J. Control J copies what's in that selection and brings it to the layer above. Okay, so it copied from the background to the layer above. Now I'm going to double click, and I'm going to create a layer style. So I'll select Bevel and Emboss, and you can already see what's happening here. You can fool around with this. I would suggest Outer Bevel. Let's see, you can't see this. You can adjust the size and make it dramatic. You can also, if you select the color overlay, it'll stand out more. So if I select blue, well, actually, once I click color overlay, once you select the name, you have the option. The last color overlay I had was blue. Yours may come up as gray, but in any event, you want to change the color. So click on this color box here, and that brings up a dialog box that allows you to select any color. All right, so let's just select this green for random, and I'll hit OK. And then you can also lower the opacity. You can also select a blending mode for it, and I think multiply is a good one because it picks up the texture in the background. All right, so I'll hit OK to that. So now we have that. So for Todd, let's do something a little different. I'm kind of center him and hit Control T. I'll scale him up, and I'll scale him up and to about something like this. All right, bring it down, hit enter, and then I'm going to go to Edit, Transform, Perspective, but I have to do something different with this. I'm going to right click and rasterize the type because I want to get this perspective. Okay, so now if I go, once I rasterize it, I'm going to go to Edit, Transform, Perspective. Then I'm going to pull out the bottom left or right bounding box so it looks like it's resting on the ground. All right, and in perspective. All right, something like that. All right, I'll hit enter. To apply the transformation, you can use your arrow keys to increment it over if you want. So once that's in position, you're going to go through the same process of Control, clicking on the thumbnail for the Todd layer, even though you rasterized it. I'm going to hide it, scroll down to the bottom layer, layer 1, and hit Control J. So that does the same exact thing. Now watch what I'm going to do now. I'm going to take this effects and copy it to that layer. So I'm holding down the Alt or Option key and dragging this FX icon down to this layer here. And it picks up the same exact technique. Okay? Again, you don't have to make it green because it's kind of, this ball kind of disappears, but All right, so I'll stop there. I want you to do that for the final submission. Okay. All right. Take care. Bye.